Ha ha! All right, here I am. Let me transfer back over. Bam. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where? 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 Oh, there you are. Hey, how are you? Hey, Rebecca. What's going on? So, anyways, let's divulge, or is it divulge, or is it vulge, or is it dive, crash, whatever, into the whole blue beam thing again. One thing I've noticed over the years is when the trolls come, it usually means you're over a target. They don't come and bother you too much if you're not saying anything they worry about. And one thing is, me and Matilda were looking, and we saw this group. We know that we watched this group that has kind of watched me for a long time. And they, right after I published something on this stuff, they published something that was like a disinfo thing on what I said. So it kind of ran people in a rabbit hole that were interested in this. And I was like, oh, shit. All right, we better look into this more, because they obviously don't want people to know about this. And I'm not going to mention those particular group of shills or whatnot, because, listen, the worst thing that can happen is if there's somebody listening to me and they go on there and they look up these people, and next thing you know, they're learning the wrong kind of information. So the last thing I want is people learning the wrong kind of information. But we discussed some more things. We kind of went over what was going on and the possibility of them bouncing these, I hate to call them beams, I want to call them more of an arc, and they are showing to be more of an arc with information. And I know that's going to be confusing for many to understand, that you can have an arc of information, and that information starts out as a source of information and gets bounced from the atmosphere and translates itself back into an energy source. Okay? I hope I didn't lose anybody there. Did I lose anybody there? Let's check the chat. Did I lose anybody? Yeah, bingo. Yeah, but that's the kind of situation. Let me move this over here, and then move this over here, and get this wire caught up on my hair, and then over here, and make sure nothing falls over, so I can see what the hell I'm doing here. So anyways, what we're going to do is I'm going to jump over and show you a few more things about Wardenclyffe, its history, and then I'm going to show a map that might help bring things back together again. So let's just jump over here real quick, and give me a second, and bring this up and make that bigger. Okay, even though this little diagram here says, I want to make sure that's coming, this little diagram says history on it, so something done by the History Channel. It's a fairly accurate diagram of what was going on at Wardenclyffe. Okay, we talked about before, Wardenclyffe was the Tesla tower where they experimented with wireless technology, the first facsimiles, basically the first wireless cell phone type of radio transmission. You remember, you look at your phone as, like a telephone, but it's not. It's actually a radio. Okay, and so the first cell phone technology, which back then it wasn't cell phone, it would have been considered radio, is experiments that went on here. The first facsimiles, transmission of picture, all that stuff. This is where it all comes from. And the interesting thing, I was looking into the tunnels that were underground this laboratory, and what I noticed is there were some collapsed ones, but I think we need more of a diagram of what was going on with these tunnels, because when you start to really look at the tunnels that were underneath this, there is that possibility for, well, what you would consider almost like the pyramid effect, okay, where we find that there are tunnels that are containing water underneath this tower, and they're finding these grounding rods made out of copper. Okay, it would be interesting to find if they ever found copper in these tunnels that are beneath the pyramids in Egypt. And if somebody has knowledge on that, please share it here in the chat or send it to me. I'd be interested in looking at that. And I just want to back up what I was saying about the Wardenclyffe and Brookhaven Laboratory. As you can see here is a map of Tesla's old laboratory, and you can see Brookhaven. Okay, Brookhaven is a state park there, but the state park is part of their property. This is Brookhaven. Okay, you can see this is Long Island Sound. Yeah, the old Tesla building, and it's basically on the Brookhaven property. Okay, and you can see where I was this point here where I was showing people where most likely what I believe the beam was originating from is the same point at which Wardenclyffe was shooting a beam to New York City. Okay, and the interesting thing about the Tesla beam, or the Tesla free energy transfer, was if you read these old papers, they talk about a blue light, the sky lighting up blue. Okay, I don't know how much more you need when you have people 100 years ago talking about how when Tesla ran his free energy experiments and the sky lit up blue. Not only that, as he was sending, he was sending transmissions from this tower, all right, to New York City. And the transformers that he was sending it to, well, here's a very interesting diagram here. This is very interesting because I think people that have known my work know how often I talk about the aquifers, okay, which also goes back to the pyramid technology. This is what the diagram of what is happening with the pyramids in Egypt. So quite interesting here. So, okay, I was not off, okay. So this is great information right here from the diagram, what they're showing. Okay, we got an aquifer here, and let's see what else. I don't know, I can't see, it's too small. If we can maybe see another diagram here that might help. Hopefully that comes in a little better. I guess the other diagram was the best. So that's how he's grounding it, and that's how they're sending it. Which means if this aquifer is here, the size of, if they call something an aquifer, it's not just like a little underground water table, it's a large body, which means this aquifer would be going under Brookhaven Laboratory. Okay, so that's quite interesting that we have basically the same situation going on here today. All right, this is quite interesting that we have the same typical diagram of a pyramid, what's going on pyramid with the chutes going down towards the aquifer. So now we're starting to get a bigger picture here. Okay, all right, the transmission that went from here went to New York. People said they saw the sky light up blue. Okay, what happened the other day there? All right, and we heard it light up blue. Interesting. I just wanted to say something because Rebecca, you mentioned how I mentioned that there were some possible cities coming up that could be having one of these experiments, and I named California, Washington State, Texas, and Illinois. Well, last night they had this same thing happen in California, so I nailed it. I predicted that one happening. Of course, I mentioned 4 cities there, or 4 states, and yeah, I mean, there's always a probability that you're going to hit something, of course, but what I'm saying is, you can only have so many coincidences before you have to say, okay, what are we talking about here? Okay, I wonder if this is more about his, okay, this is kind of a weird analogy of Tesla's, what his thinking was. Okay, back in the day, what he did discuss is that he wrote a letter to, let me go back and then we could come back again just so we could do that real quick. All right, let's come back here. All right, hello, hi, I'm back. Anyways, better in California, yes. Well, it's not. Listen, we found one in the past that they did do in Texas. So I mean, it was already done in Texas. I think in 2016. There was actually quite a few of them that went on in 2016, but they weren't advertised. They were in more obscure places. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit here. I'm going to go over that. And that way you can see that I'm not wrong about these locations. And it's going to be a little more detail. But yeah, California had it last night, I believe it was, or the night before. And again, the blue light matches what they were talking about 100 years ago. Okay? But it was literally from the same location. Okay? And you know, listen, I have no proof that they shot it from that location. But I'm going to show you some evidence in a second here that's going to kind of help build it up to that. Okay? And what my concern was with the smart sky, because I believe that's going to be a big portion of the, you know, of sure weather manipulation. You know, here's two things that can be happening. Okay, yes, they're playing with the weather. That scares us. Okay, and for some reason, that weather manipulation project back in the 1900s, early 1900s, was tied into this power transfer, this electrical free energy transfer experimentation. So you kind of got to put these two together again when we're talking about, you know, similar locations and, you know, distances and all that. You know, the evidence is there. And apparently when I see the type of things that some of these trolls go after, they obviously don't like this being talked about. Matter of fact, one of the predictions Mattel came out with is that there's going to be a couple new videos out there discussing Brookhaven. They'll probably give you some truth, and then they'll run you down rabbit holes, because that's what happens usually when these idiots watch me, is they want to try and get ahead of the story. Okay? But as much as they can get ahead of the story, I still predicted this just latest incident, and I think there's going to be some more. And the question is, how do we, you know, this is the reason why I would like to stop them. And of course, everybody knows I love costing the Masons money and the people that are planning this money. You know, I want to cost them just not millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. I want to cost these people money. You know, I'll teach them a lesson for messing with me. Anyways, what I'm predicting here is, I think this is part of their Blue Beam alien special. You know, you look at the whole thing with H.G. Wells, okay? He wrote the book War of the Worlds, okay? Then Orson Welles does the radio broadcast. Slightly different spellings in the name, but they're two different people, just in case people thought H.G. Wells was the one that did the broadcast. No, H.G. Wells was the Fabian who wrote the book. Okay, H.G. Wells is a Fabian. Fabians are very nefarious in the stupidity they bring about to this world. H.G. Wells writes the book. It gets adapted into basically like a screenplay back in the day, in the early, you know, in the 30s. I believe it was 1938 that this broadcast was done. They acted out plays on the radio. And so they did War of the Worlds. And if you look at everything that went on, where this took place, it was right outside of this area, right outside. It was a Princeton radio thing. It was done in New York. I mean, this was an experiment that went on even not far from this area. So anyways, they would have had knowledge of the Tesla technology. And this is where I propose they devise this plan, because, you know, you look at it, right? Now, even in the War of the Worlds, right, the whole big domed robot with legs, okay, shooting out, you know, zapping power, it's like the Wardenclyffe Tower, all right, and you know how they like to tell us things way in advance, and I'd like to, you know, propose that with this smart sky technology, with the types of things that are spraying in the sky, not just to manipulate the weather, but also to display spaceships in the sky, and then use these stations that are throughout this country to, in unison, zap different places, so it looks like this alien invasion is actually legitimate. And the reason why I want to talk about that and whether it actually is true, not true, and whatnot, if this is out there, if it can stop them or slow them down, I look at that as a plus, right? That's my thinking, you know. Crazy War of the Worlds type shit, damn near every episode of the show. Yeah, well, yeah, as long as they keep it away from me, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance for that to happen in Texas. I mean, there's going to be the sites I've looked into these lasers, and let me take you through this real quick, and just so you can see, just with one site, the major site I think is Brookhaven, where they've been testing this the most. But let's switch back over again, so you can see what the heck's going on here. Okay, let's go here, maps. All right, can everybody see my map here? All right. Let me see if I can speed this up so I can catch. All right. Okay. Can you see the map, everybody? Rebecca, can you see the map? If you can see, yeah, it looks like the map's there, but can you see my cursor? Okay, I can see the cursor. Okay. Yep. All right. So we're going to show you here. All right. This is Brookhaven Laboratory. Okay. The original test site, I believe, was somewhere in here. The reason why there's a park all around here is because there's all tunnels under here, all right? And I'm going to start off here with a new one where we've found another strike zone with the transformers going off. There was one right here in Brantford, okay? So we have an interesting thing here. We've had, you know, one go off here, okay, which is still in distance of the laboratory. We've had the Con Ed building, okay? You see me going across here. This is the Con Ed building, all right? And of course, there's the proposed, they had something to do with 9/11, which is right here, okay? Well, also we've had one here, another transformer strike just past the Con Ed building, across the Hudson, and a little bit further in, okay? And of course we had Flight 800, which I'm going to zoom out here. We had Flight 800, which was right here, another thing which was in that range. And then we had the JFK plane, which went down here, okay? So quite a few incidents of strange things going on, with each of them talking about blue beams, okay? Each, you know, I only chose, there's been other transformers that have exploded and different things. The ones I'm talking about are the ones that had people talking about blue sky or blue something going on. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Now, you can see this is an interesting, you know, area. Now, if you even remember right here, the Princeton radio broadcast, okay, this whole area right over here, I believe, is where they had that, where they shot the water tower. So you got Edison and Princeton. And back then, these were research facilities that would have been also having scientists work out on the island, and they would have known this technology. There is a lot being said. Okay, let me see. If you wanted to go to, yeah, let's go. Yeah, I'll bring that back in a minute here. But let's come back here real quick. There's a lot said that. Okay, let's run through it again. Donald Trump's Uncle John, okay? The day Tesla dies, gets called in. The FBI calls the Office of Alien Affairs, which is the department that took care of basically estates when somebody was a foreigner that died. So, you know, apparently Tesla was still a foreigner. So, or whatever excuse they had. Donald Trump's father or uncle, John, was a professor at MIT who was somebody that had knowledge on these type of things, and the FBI wouldn't be calling him unless he was one of their inside men. His uncle goes to the hotel. There's rumor that, you know, Prescott Bush was there or something like that. I don't remember the exact rumor, but when Prescott Bush actually worked with John Trump, so that's even that, you know, that's the rumor part. There hasn't been a ton of evidence on there that is solid enough for me to go along with that story. But the story we do know is Trump was there. John Trump was there. And those papers go missing, okay? Now, those missing papers and some of the non-missing papers actually end up at Wright-Patterson, I believe, and also before it was just it wasn't Wright-Patterson, but it was an older field, and they also went to, I believe, Princeton. Of course, Princeton was right there where they ended up, doing the research for the War of the Worlds radio project. Okay, interesting to see how these things tie together when you know your history. All right, so we have this project that's 100 years old, the War of the Worlds project. The technology wasn't there. The New World Order agenda has always had this on there. Unite the world under one big, great, oh, we got to come together. The aliens are coming, blah, 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 whatever. The thing is, they have the technology now to do this. And that's why I want to keep discussing it for just right now, because it's important that people understand the technology is there, that they could put shape in the sky, okay? And I'm going to explain this again with these beams, okay? You can be at, let's say, someplace like Brookhaven Laboratory, okay? You can shoot this into the sky, right? And it's basically information, okay? And it's, the chemtrails are turning into a smart sky, electrifying the sky. The sun is interacting with these chemicals, these different metals, and it's basically almost turning into like a silicon chip in the sky, okay? And I know it sounds out there, but it's capable of being done. So you can make shape, it can make sound because you have aluminum in the sky, okay? And you also can refract off of that and bounce back energy, that information getting transferred back into energy, okay? And there's that free energy. And that's why they're able to find that target, because they're somehow making that sky smart enough to, that information, it's actually a beam of information almost, more than it is actual light and energy. I know people aren't going to wrap their head around it. You don't have to believe me. I want to say it just to piss these people off. Okay? So, that's what we have here. It is a situation where they can, in theory, do this all over the country. Not just all over the country, with the type of places they have all over the world. Okay? And they can do this all over the world. When people look up into the sky, they may actually see what appears to them as a spaceship. Okay? Now, the scary part is those spaceships would appear to be shooting lasers or shooting energy forces or shooting things, and it actually do damage to the ground. Okay? Most likely, I think with the technology they have for this transfer, they're going to hit transformers if they do this. Okay? So they'll be blowing up transformers all over the place, which brings us back to, as much as I didn't believe in the grid going down and the warning for that, if they actually do this, that would knock the grid down in some areas. It would knock a lot of things out if it wasn't done properly. And with our military and our military intelligence, which is an oxymoron in itself, they're most likely to screw something up. So yeah, something could happen. But the only reason I want to talk about that is just to stop them from actually doing it. Because I think what I've seen just recently enough is that they were testing enough to be pretty close to an actual event. Me saying it, stopping them, doesn't mean it will. But if I could throw a monkey wrench in their shit, I'll be happy. So that's about all I really wanted to talk about. I also wanted to show you something else that kind of pissed me off. The shit I always get, and it's like, all these shows out there say they always get harassed and all this stuff, but they have no clue on what censorship is. Let me go over, I can go on my page here on Twitter. Okay, 2,700 views of this video. I've literally had over 380, 400 likes, and they keep on going down. And you could see I had retweeted it, I had liked it. Every other day, I have to retweet, re-like this thing. And I just think it's just ridiculous that there's been so many people that have been having their likes taken away from this video. So what is it about this video that they just don't want to, make it look like it's liked? I mean, I have such a small following. Why would they care? But obviously they do, and I think that's the whole point of it is that I do have a small following. Okay, and when you get like censored, when you get your YouTube numbers played with and stuff like that, and then you see these people with 10,000 people, 1 million people, no, there's a question going on here, because I've seen the way they come. A lot of this troll stuff happens behind where people don't see it, and that activity never gets discussed with those people. So why they're messing with me, I don't freaking know, because I don't have much of a following. But it just scares me that if all those other people out there are not getting these type of things going on, then they're full of shit. And that scares me that we have that many people that are full of shit out there. But that's the world we're living in today. And we're living in a world where people are shit, full of shit. We just discovered, I didn't just discover, we've had the suspicion for a long time. We had basic evidence behind it. But now I have the real freaking evidence that, not just that, like, people like Jim Fetzer were tied to a group, a Masonic type of group, but also that he's MK Ultra, and I can even back that up. And it sucks, because we were discussing the whole fact is, you wake up and you learn these new things from so many of these people out there, and you lend your confidence to them, and they seem credible, and they do such good work, and then you find out they weren't being totally honest. They might have been being very honest about the event, and they weren't being honest about their backstory, about their life. And you're like, why? Because we can back up that so much of his work and so many others like him, we're doing real work and helping wake people up. So why are people tied to the people that are doing it, waking people up? Right? And you understand that when you read Alice Bailey, Blavatsky, and all these other characters, the Masons of the past, that, this is about their religion, their future religions. And it doesn't sound right, does it? But it is. They talk about initiating people into their numbers, symbols, and metaphor. Then you question, you think, well, wait a second here, Jerry, that's something you've been learning. You've been learning all about their numbers. You've been learning about their symbols. You've been learning about their metaphors. What's going on here? And according to those writers of the past, those Masons of the past, those occultists, well, they're initiating us. And that's part of their process they always planned. And that was 100 years ago also, at the turn of the century. Funny how so much of this that was literally being spoken about 100 years ago is happening now. And that's the other scary part. If it was 100 years old stuff that is happening now, what do they got in store for us 100 years from now? And it's a scary world we're entering into. But there was some shit planned, and whether people want to accept it or not, there was an awakening planned. I can dig deeper into going over the great awakenings of the past and different things like that. But people really should learn about this themselves. The only way you're going to ever believe it is if you actually read some of this stuff yourself. Me telling you is not going to do it. Matter of fact, I suggest you don't listen to me. You go out and check for yourself. Don't listen to anybody. The only way you're really going to ever understand any truth is by learning it yourself. I think the same thing with the big channels. Yeah, the big channels are full of shit. The more I learn, I think I'm pretty good with some technology. I mean, you can see I could do a few things here and there, but I understand what like the some of the processing speed, some of the different things. I notice little things that, yeah, it's bullshit. If you see a lot of the more advanced microphones and equipment and stuff, yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's spoon-fed bullshit, CIA crap. You know, whether you want to call it CIA, military intelligence, signal corps, whatever you want to call it, don't matter to me. It's all bullshit. So that's what it is. You know, the other thing we were talking about is it's funny how often you look into these things, and we were looking at something. It was called the 100th monkey effect. And I guess I just want to summarize because I didn't read the whole study, but what I got this, because oftentimes what I'll do is I don't always read some of these things right away, is I find out who wrote them and find out about them to find out if they're bullshit or not. Okay? Because, you know, before I read something, I want to know who the person is. You know, where's this coming from? You know, what's the agenda behind it before I, you know, read it, and it lets me at least be open-minded enough to understand if it's going to be, you know, truth, or if it's going to be like the shills do, where they give you some truth and then there's lie, or if it's just going to be total insanity. So the 100 monkey effect is, you do that too. It's a good idea. I mean, why find out who? That's amazing to me, man. It don't take, especially with people like Alex Jones. It take you 2 seconds to find out he a fool. He's a fool. He's a stooge. Don't even take that long. And I wish more people would do that. You know, I tell you what, there's been a lot of people we've came across where they're actually pretty tough to find out their history. Okay? And those are the ones that are scary, because those are the ones that somebody spent some time, you know, making sure that they didn't have a background, or, you know, it was a little tougher to dig through. And those are the scarier ones, because what's their prime objective? What's their agenda? Okay, but this 100 monkey effect, what it was is a study where they said they found, you know, a monkey cleaning a potato, and then, you know, far off, not even on the same island, far away, that another monkey, a couple more monkeys started doing it, just randomly. Okay, and it was like, okay, but they were trying to say that this had to do with the everything is one, and, you know, the interconnected conscious and all that. And I'm not saying, please, whatever you do, don't think I'm saying that is wrong. What I'm saying is the Masonic Agenda has always had this set up for you to come to a point of believing. 100 years ago, they wanted to insert where they talked about people are going to be part of this whatever you want to call it, groupthink, this one world mind, this hive mind, okay? And that was part of the New Age agenda, okay? And the New Age agenda is a Masonic agenda, and it's been a big part of what's going on now. And, you know, don't feel stupid if you fell for it. Just understand that the reason why you fell for it is because they planned on you falling for it. And you can't protect yourself from becoming what they want unless you understand that. Not saying that their ideas are wrong. What I'm saying is understand what they want you to understand, or understand that, you know, if you're taking on some of these new ideas, it's that they want you to. It doesn't mean you can't explore them if you understand, you know, that they want this to push you in a certain direction. Okay? I hope that is somewhat clear. Big time, yeah. So, anyway, with this 100 monkey effect, and I was like, okay, well, that's, you know, dolphins, whales have these, you know, radar type of minds, and, you know, transmitting signals in ways we don't understand. And is there a higher consciousness within the animal planet? And I'm not saying there isn't again, but when I started reading who did this study, and they were comparing their stuff to Alice Bailey and other occultists, and these people belong to the Rosicrucians. So in other words, these people that produced this information had it parallel the agenda that they want. And we see this so often in the science field that for the thinking they want people to be in at the time, they have research and studies that back up that, and you can see how it parallels what the writings were from, whether it was Albert Pike or Blavatsky or Bailey or Mackey or whoever it was, that they wanted people to go in this direction. So, and then when you find out they're tied to the same goddamn groups, you have to start asking yourself, wait a second, why am I believing what I'm believing? And maybe I shouldn't believe everything that I'm told, and I should research it for myself. You know? So, anyways, I think, you know, what it was with this blue beam where I didn't even give a shit about it. And I took a look, because I started seeing these things with the Palladians and this and that, and I'm like, no, the blue beam didn't come from the Palladians. You know, you might want to call these, you know, these crazy Masonic scientists Palladians. That's fine if you want to call them that, whatever you want to call them. It came from them. You know, you got to remember, you put a laser in a plane. Let's say you're going to put a direct energy laser in a Boeing or a Lockheed jet, right? Where'd that laser come from? Where was it developed? Do you know of any laser factories? Well, you know, most likely they probably did produce them out in the desert somewhere, but the technology, the development of them came from these laboratories. These are the laser people. They're the beam people. They're direct energy people. These are the scientists that do that. So, guilty is as guilt does. You know, it doesn't matter if they're shooting it from a plane. It doesn't matter if they're bouncing it off the atmosphere. Actually, it does matter, because what they're doing to our atmosphere is kind of scary. But wherever it's coming from, and it could be coming from both places, and most likely is, it's the fact that it needs to stop. Okay? ISIS is a creation of, you know, our intelligence agencies. Matter of fact, the terrorist cell system was originally taught from the Masons, actually from the Assassins to the Masons, and then the Masons to the Bolsheviks, okay, and then you know, the Bolsheviks to our intelligence our agencies of the early days to the OSS, and then from OSS to the CIA, from the CIA to the Muslims in Egypt, and then it went on from there. So in other words, the terrorist cell system is a Masonic system, and that's how they work and why they're able to pull off the things they can without being discovered so easily, okay? Because they work like that, all right? The Masonic system of intelligence is a terrorist cell system, okay? So that's where we need to throw the bricks into and break up their system. You know, we need to stop them, because, you know, there is no boogeyman. They create the boogeyman. Now they're playing with high-powered weapons that can actually hurt somebody. They could burn down people's homes and cars, their cats and dogs, their children, their grandparents, their families. So that's not cool, and they need to be stopped. And the idea of a blue beam project where they make a spaceship up in the sky and then shoot lasers on the ground, even if they don't hurt anybody, and scare the living daylights. Let me tell you something. If they do something like that, where they put something up in the sky and they have it shooting down beams, and like I said before, the smart sky that they have, they can even have sound in that sky. They can reflect sound off of that sky to make it sound like it's coming from whatever design they put in that sky, whether it's sacred geometry or it's a looking like a spaceship or a saucer or whatever. They could do that. But think about grandma walking down the street and her seeing that. She's going to have a heart attack. So I'd like to kind of stop them or stall them, whatever we can do, because if that's actually on the table, it's an evil thing to do. It's something that should not be done. You should not scare the living shit out of society because you want to bring in your New World Order religion or your New World Order socialism or monetary system or whatever it may be. Don't scare people like that. Don't hurt people like that. You're going to make people lose their shit. And I'll tell you what, people like me ain't going to be happy when you make, some old lady down the street lose her shit to where she has a heart attack. Bet your ass I'm not going to be happy with those Masons. Bet your ass. These people have done some very bad things over the years, and they need to be held accountable. Hold them accountable. They've done such horrible things. They're evil as shit. Evil as shit. Yeah, Israeli secrets. Yeah. And like I said, they were just taught by, whether it's B'nai B'rith, the ADL. These are, and third, these are just, Masonic systems. Albert Pike worked with the B'nai B'rith. I mean, it's, B'nai B'rith was involved in Lincoln's assassination. Okay? It's, whether it's a Jewish lodge or a English lodge, it's still a freaking lodge, whether it's a high-ranking lodge or a low lodge. I don't give a crap anymore. I don't care if it's Royal Ark or, Scottish Rite or Blue Lodge. I don't care if it's blue, green, red, yellow, purple. I don't give a shit. They're all held accountable. Listen, if you want to join an organization where, at the top they're doing evil, it means you're supporting them. Or even if you're on the bottom and don't know what the heck they're all doing, you're still supporting them. Therefore, that makes you evil. And you need to be held accountable just as much as the person at the top. Either that or be wise enough to quit and say, hey, I'm not going to belong to an association where they do such evil things. I don't know how many times I got to say this. Without a Mason, without the Masons, there is no more war. There is zero war without Masons. And it's been like that for a long time, that no matter what war it is, Masons were involved. So therefore, answer simple. No more Masons. Right? Waves of human flesh, that's for sure. So, I guess that's my little spiel today. There's a lot more I wanted to cover, but I didn't cover. We will cover. So, we'll get to that. York Rite, Scottish Rite, all side. I'm stealing that, True Seeker. I'm stealing that one. All right.